is $1 billion. It's given them to pay back. But everybody wants to know that.
Right. That's for.
Yes, cities, you can't, special utility district, can't be water supply corporations, just cities. And then you're either 10 to 10,000, 10 to 150, or 150 So we fall in the 0 to 10, and then they still rank that based on, see, there's the old 2025 income. This is the 2024, this is the adjusted 2025. They're still saying, they still base it on your income.
Gotcha.
I'm gonna go ahead and start. Start time is 6 p.m. Roll call.
John Ward here.
Matthew Witten here.
Ashley Blumenthal here.
Tony Cook here.
Paul Potts here.
Okay, everybody will stand. Do the pledge. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Under God, one.
Coach, you want to do the prayer?
Father God, again, we come before you asking for your blessings over this meeting. Ask you for your wisdom. God, protect us, be with us in Christ's name, amen.
Amen. Right. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Starting off, as always, I have some important dates for you. Starting off, I've highlighted kind of the significant or unusual events in green. That first event on the 12th of February is the CDBG public hearing. CDBG stands for Community Development Block Grant. That's one of the federal grants that we're applying for. It's the $750,000 grant. The purpose of this hearing is to invite members of the public to come and give input to the city on what kind of projects they would like that $750,000 to go to. So there is not a project already determined for this money. The public is welcome and invited to come in and let the city know, do you want to see the money spent here? Do you want to see it spent there? Do you want to see sidewalks? Do you want to see parks? Do you want to see street improvements? What is it that you want to see most? And so that's on the 12th of February at 5:05 p.m. here at City Hall. The 16th of February is President's Day. On the 28th of April is the rescheduled date for the TCEQ public hearing at the high school cafeteria. That is the hearing where the TCEQ is going to come and hear what the citizens have to say about the wastewater discharge permit that we've applied for. On the 18th of May, so we're already, it's only February, but we're already projected out to May. On the 18th of May, we're going to have our regular council meeting on the 18th, which is the third Monday of the month. And the reason that we're doing that is because the following Monday, the 25th, is Memorial Day. So normally we have our council meetings the fourth Monday of each month. In May, we'll need to do it on the third Monday to account for Memorial Day. Any questions about any of those items? Okay. Today, I have 5 briefs for you. A couple of them are pretty long. The first brief that I have is a tax policy brief. The second one is about animal control. The third one is an update from myself and the city engineer regarding our capital improvement projects. Item D is rezoning request for North Mesquite from Mr. Joe Lamb. And the fifth one is the rezoning of Windmill Ridge. For the residents who have come to attend today, just so you know, what we're going to do is we're going to brief the rezoning items, and the council will be able to ask whatever questions they have about the rezoning. And then we'll get into citizen comment, where people can talk about anything except really the hearing. Because after citizen comment, we will open the actual hearing for the rezoning. And that will be the opportunity that everyone has to stand up and say what they need to say about the rezoning items. Okay. All right. So getting into it. municipal tax policy and homestead exemptions. I had a couple of council members ask me about how it is that we determine where our taxes come from. Also had a couple of council members ask me about homestead exemptions. And so what I've prepared for y'all today is a pretty solidly college level brief. This is a college class on municipal tax policy, okay? And so I'm gonna run through it. I have confidence that we're all gonna get through this together. This is important foundational knowledge for understanding the way that municipal taxes work. Okay, when you talk to a person who specializes in economics, they're going to make a distinction when it comes to goods and services between an item's rivalry and excludability. All that rivalry means is that we're rivals when it comes to using this thing. Only one person can use it. A light bulb is rivalrous, because if I have the light bulb, you don't have the light bulb, right? Or excludability. If I can prevent you from using it, if I can withhold it from you, it's excludable. So when you go to Walmart and you buy something off the shelf, the things that you are buying are rivalrous, because if you buy it, you put it in your cart. It can't be in anyone else's cart. It's in your cart. And it's excludable because you can't have it unless you buy it. Okay. And so an item is rivalrous if it's consumed or exclusive or discrete in its use. It's excludable if you can prevent people from using it. Like I said earlier, here you have a picture of a light bulb. You have a picture of streetlights. Very similar in their use. Very similar in their purpose. They illuminate the darkness. Okay. A light bulb that you would buy at Walmart, is it rivalrous? Yeah. Two people can't buy the same bulb. It can't be in my house and in your house. Once it's installed in my house, it will only give light in my house. It will not give light in your house. It's in my house. That is a private good. You can sell it and make money. But streetlights, a street lighting service, is a public good. Why? Because if a street light shines down, it illuminates me, it illuminates you, we both see. Me seeing doesn't take anything away from you seeing. It is a public good. You walk on the street, the light is there for you. No one is making money selling subscriptions to your street light. Right? That is a public good provided by government because the market will not support streetlight services. All right. On the left, you have a picture of a NASCAR race at Texas Motor Speedway. On the right, you have a normal public road. Going to watch a race, is it rivalrous? Yeah. If I have, they'll only let so many people in. If I have a ticket, it's my ticket. Two people can't get in on one ticket. I make money by preventing you from coming in unless you have a ticket. It's a rivalrous, excludable service, and people can make money off of it. But no one makes money off of your neighborhood road. No one makes money off of your sidewalk. If I walk on the sidewalk, it takes nothing away from your ability to walk on the sidewalk behind me. No matter how many times I walk down the sidewalk, unless I gain a lot of weight, I'm not going to do any damage to that sidewalk. And so on the left, NASCAR race, they're both streets. They're similar, but the way that they're used, the race is a private good, the street is a public good. On the left, we have a Colt 1911, most beautiful pistol ever made, right? Cased in 45 ACP. I love these things. If I have a weapon, if I have the pistol, only I have the pistol. We don't both have the pistol. If it's in my house, it's not in your house. It's sold to me. The person who sold it to me made money. I buy a box of 45 ACP. I own the box. And unless you stole the rounds out of it, you're not using my ammunition. Okay? On the right, we have a police officer. Very similar. They both maintain our own personal safety. But if I have the pistol, you can't have the pistol. The police officer and the network of emergency services that we have accounts for all of our safety. We all benefit. My being protected by police officers does nothing to prevent you from being protected by police officers. And that's why you don't see public police contractors. You know, you can have bodyguards. That's similar, but that's a private service. It's excludable. If I have a bodyguard, you can't have the bodyguard. It's different.
While standard police patrol is a
Sorry.
I'm sure that Gemini agrees with me. All right. We live in the United States. We're a capitalist society. We find gaps in the market where people are willing to pay in order to receive a service, and that's how we all make a living, and it's a good thing. Free markets are excellent at producing private goods because I can count them and I can sell them. After I've sold it, I don't have it anymore. I need to get more. I need to get inventory. And because I'm competing with other groups who are offering the same goods and services, I can get efficient and I can out-compete the other people who are trying to make a living selling these goods on the free market. But there are a lot of things that are good for society, we've all agreed are good for society, but they don't make any money. Public education, libraries, street lights. If it doesn't benefit you directly, why would you pay for it so that someone else can freeload off your work? And that's what creates market failures. There are things that are good for society that would not happen unless someone came in and paid for them. When you have a good that you don't want to pay for, but it's still good for society, like a lot of people don't like paying their school taxes because they don't have kids. My father-in-law is like that. My father-in-law tells me, hey, I no longer have kids in school. I shouldn't have to pay school taxes. I've already done that. And so you have a person who benefits from living in a society where education is free, but they don't want to pay, and they wouldn't pay. And that's what you call a free rider problem. A person who gets a free ride on the systems being provided without paying into it themselves. If people can benefit from something without paying, many of them will choose the benefit without paying, and it's completely rational. It's not evil. It's not cruel. If something is happening without me contributing, why would I get involved? If a group of people is going to make a sidewalk and they don't expect me to pay for the sidewalk, why would I volunteer to pay for the sidewalk? It doesn't make any sense. But if everyone behaved that way, then society would have a lot of gaps. There would be a lot of services that society would benefit from that just wouldn't exist. And so the economic purpose of government, not the moral purpose of government, not the philosophical purpose of government, but the economic purpose of government is to find where there are market failures, find where there are areas where society would benefit, but no one is willing to pay, right? And correct those market failures by solving the free rider problem. This is the academic basis for what in practice becomes taxation. Taxation is the practical means that our entire society, practically the entire world, has decided that in order to prevent free riders, we're going to make sure that everyone pays some in the form of taxation. What are taxes used for? Well, we already said they're used for public goods. I've stood on my soapbox many times and said the 4 things that a city government needs to provide: water, wastewater, roads, and emergency services, and all the other things that citizens like to see, like parks and trails and libraries and senior centers and convention centers and hosting events and doing all the things that make a community, things that would not happen without government involvement because not enough people stand to profit monetarily. So we use taxes. Are taxes good? No. Nobody likes taxes. I don't like paying taxes. You don't like paying taxes. Nobody likes taxes. No illusions about that. The reason that we have taxes and that we tolerate taxes is that they are the least worst option that we have. Okay. We as an entire society, as an entire culture, have decided, hey, doggone it, we hate taxes, but it's the least bad thing. No tax system is perfectly fair. And so just any human endeavor is imperfect. And so as members of the council, as members of a government body, as people with control over political policy decisions, part of the role that y'all play and that y'all direct me to play is to make sure that our taxes are as fair as they can be, as we can manage to make them. Another concept for you. There's a concept of progressive versus regressive taxes. So how do we make taxes fair? By balancing which taxes are progressive and which taxes are regressive. All that progressive and regressive mean is that a progressive tax places a larger burden on wealthier people, and a regressive tax places the burden on poorer people. And I'll explain how that works. So a regressive tax, like the sales tax, is a regressive tax. It places a greater burden on less wealthy people. Because when two families go to the store and one makes $50,000 a year and the other family makes $500,000 a year, they both go to the store, they buy roughly the same things. They buy milk and eggs and bread and chips and fruit, and they go to the counter and they pay roughly the same amount of sales tax. Maybe it's $10 for the entire grocery visit. But $10 is a much larger percentage of their total wealth for the for the $50,000 family than it is for the $500,000 family. For the $500,000 family, it's nothing. Pay it, who cares? But for the poorer family, man, it sure stinks I have to pay this sales tax. Man, it sure stinks I have to pay this gasoline tax. Man, it sure stinks that they've hiked up the price on this pack of cigarettes, right? Because it's a much larger percentage of their total income. So we don't want our taxes to be regressive, because that's putting all the tax burden on the people who are least able to pay. What ideally you want to do is have a balance so that the people who are needing to increase their wealth have an opportunity in America to do that. And the people who are already wealthy, who have already benefited from the fruits of the society that we've built together, right, will be able to play a larger role in contributing to the common good. And so an income tax is a progressive tax. Why? Because the more you make, the more you pay. If you're a poor family, when you pay your federal income taxes, you have your tax brackets, the tax burden, the percentage is lowest for the people who are at the poverty line. And as you make more and more money, you pay a larger and larger percentage, and that is a progressive tax. Now, in, I think, 48 states, that's the way that taxes are done. In most states in the United States, they say, hey, we've solved this problem. We want progressive taxation. We can tether it directly to income. We can make it fair for everybody. Everyone pays income tax. That's not the way Texas does it. We, as a society, in Texas, have chosen not to use an income tax. Instead, we've chosen to use a property tax. Not an income tax, a property tax. Texas, Florida, and I don't know who else are the states that choose to do it like this. Why is a property tax the least worst option? Why did we settle on property tax of all things? Why is that the thing that we as a society in Texas have chosen to base our entire social welfare on, right? Well, it's roughly progressive. Because if you own a lot of property, you're more likely to be wealthy. It's not always true. It's not always true. Your net worth might be in the red and you own a lot of property. But generally speaking, if you own a lot of property, you have significant wealth. And it's a capital asset that appreciates with time. And so every year, you can expect the property values to rise, or if they dip, they probably won't dip very much. It won't be volatile. The market won't be shifting with the Dow. It's going to be a plot of land that's been there since Moses, and it's going to be there when Christ returns, okay? And It will grow in value or dip in value at a very moderate pace so that we can predict our operations as time goes on. Also, the land is worth a lot of money. Even if you are not wealthy, the land is worth money. If you think of it like a real estate-backed security, the value of the land is what's backing municipal operations. And because the backing of the security is firm, that's a solid foundation for the municipal government to build its operations. It's set locally by the city council. Every year, there's a tax rate hearing. Every year, there's a vote to approve the tax rate. It's set by y'all, and y'all answer to the voters, and there's local control, not state control. In other countries, the national government takes up taxes from everybody, and they remit some money to the municipalities, and they just take what they're given. That's not the way it is here. In the United States, we say locally elected leadership needs to be the ones in control of the purse strings. We will elect our leaders, and they will set the tax rate, and they will answer to us. That is the way that we as a society have structured this. And there's a thorough process in place. We have what's called a county appraisal district here in Wise County. They are excellent. I have nothing but good things to say about them. Every question I have, they answer me right away. Any questions that anyone has about their taxes, they can reach out to the Wise County Appraisal District and get their questions answered. What's the downside of property taxes? Well, property values don't reflect income necessarily. You can be land rich and cash poor. It can happen. It does happen. It can burden fixed income households. If you are retired on an annuity and you're on a fixed income or you're getting disability payments, man, it really stinks that you live in a land, you live on a property, you're not getting anything more out of the property, but it just keeps going up year over year. What's up with that? It doesn't feel fair. Your income doesn't rise, but the property values rise, and so every year you're paying more and you just get so frustrated. What can we do about these property taxes? Now, here is where we start to get into something that I don't think very many people know about. Every piece of land, every parcel of land, there's a title, and the title is filed in the county clerk's office, and the county clerk has a roster of all the tens of thousands of properties that exist within the county. And each one of those parcels is associated with different tax codes. And there are different levels of government that exist that pull a property tax on all of our properties. And it's not just the city. In fact, it's mostly not the city. There's the city, sure, the city does collect property taxes, but there's the county, the school district, the emergency services district. In fact, here are all the taxing entities within Wise County. If you live in Paradise within city limits, these are the folks that you're paying property tax to. I've ranked them from highest tax rate to lowest tax rate. Up there at the top, you see Paradise Independent School District. Their tax rate is 1.0892, more than 3 times as much as the city's tax rate. I am not saying that that's bad, because we need public schools. It is better to live in a society where people are educated, where we have an educated workforce who are trained and able to step in. We don't have gangs of kids roving the streets during the day. Schools are good, but it is a fact, just so people know. The school tax rate, when you pay your taxes every year, you are paying more than 3 times as much to the school as you are to the city. Underneath the city, you have the county. Under the county, you have the Emergency Services District, which is our fire service. Under that, you have the Flood Control District. Under that, you have a maintenance district that maintains Weatherford College. And underneath that, you have the Improvement District, which maintains lakes. And when you add all that up, one moment. When you add all that up, that is what you're paying every year when it comes to your property taxes. I've put this QR code up. I encourage everybody, I'm going to talk for a little bit, go ahead and get your phone out. If you go to your camera and just point your camera at this code, you'll be able to click on a link, and it will take you to a map. On this map is where you can find all the tax information for all of your stuff, okay? If you are curious about your property, what your property was valued year over year, you can go here, click on it. I've done it for my property. You do it for your property. I'm looking at this thing all the time. And you can see, hey, back in 2007, my house was only valued at $67,000. Look at how it's grown. And then if you have appeals questions, you can go through the CAD, the appraisal district, and get your questions resolved. Here is the annual levy for a $500,000 property. Now, the average value of a residence in Paradise this year was not $500,000. It was more like $345,000 was the average value of a residence. But just to keep the math simple, just imagine that you own a $500,000 property in Paradise. Here is where your property taxes are going. $5,500 of it is going to the school district. $1,700 of it is going to Paradise, the city. $1,000 is going to Wise County, and so on. And so it's important to know. I think that it's a common misconception that when you pay the property taxes, you're paying it exclusively to the city, and then you think to yourself, man, I'm paying $9,000 a year. I know all of my neighbors are paying $9,000 a year. Why can't the city pull its head out and figure out what it's doing? Well, why? We're not getting $9,000. We're getting $1,700, okay? And so that's just context for what we're doing here. Here are the municipal tax rates for all the cities in Wise County, ranked from most to least. In Boyd, they have a combined tax rate of 0.66. Go down third from the bottom where you get to Paradise. Ours is 0.345. Okay, good on them. They have elected officials that they've voted in their council to approve that tax rate that's nearly double ours. Good for them. Fantastic. That's not the way we do it here. Our tax rate is very low. We fight every year to be able to keep it low and not only maintain our level of service, but improve it. And so the council, when looking at its peers across the county, I don't believe has anything to be ashamed of when it comes to the taxes that it levies. All right. But even though we have a low tax rate, even though we only get a small slice of the pie when it comes to property taxes, we still want to reduce the burden for disadvantaged people. We don't want to be unfair. No tax system is perfect, but we still want to make it as perfect as it can be, as fair as it can be. Not necessarily as easy as it can be, because everyone has to pull their weight. But we don't want to go after someone on a fixed income and destroy their lives and force them to leave because they can't afford to pay their property taxes. That's not what we're about. If you look at this chart right here, there are a bunch of options that cities have when it comes to reducing the tax burden on its residents. One of those options is a homestead tax exemption. So in a lot of cities, if you register with the appraisal district and say, I am living at this property, this is my home, you can get a tax exemption for living in that property. That's a common thing across Texas. In Wise County, generally speaking, that's not the way it's done. In Wise County, there are only 2 municipalities that offer a tax exemption. Lake Bridgeport, not Bridgeport, but Lake Bridgeport, and Runaway Bay. Why is it that we don't have homestead exemptions when it's such a common thing across the state of Texas? And I'll tell you, the reason why this council has not yet seen fit to implement a homestead tax exemption is because we have taken it a step further. Within the city of Paradise, for the last 23 years, the city has implemented what's called a tax freeze. I'm not sure that most people are aware of this. but it's already happening. It's already going on. It's been going on for 20 years. The way it works is that if you have a registered disability with the state of Texas, or if you're 65 years old or older, your taxes are freezed at the level, at the dollar amount that existed at the time that you filed the tax freeze. So, I'll say it. If you're 65, you turn 65, the city of Paradise freezes your taxes. You don't pay another cent over that amount that you paid that year for the rest of your life. If you live another 30 years and the equity on your house triples, you will still pay the exact same amount, quantity, dollars and cents, that amount of money that you paid back when you turned 65 or back when you became disabled. Okay? Most cities in the state of Texas do not do this. Why? Because it's too much. If a person lives in a house for 30 years and the value of the house appreciates like crazy, the city doesn't get any return on that. It's insane. But back in 2003, that's the ordinance that was passed. That's the policy that is still in place today. That is what it is. And so, to summarize for everybody, a core responsibility of government is to maintain public goods, is to maintain the provision of public goods where there are market failures. How do we provide public goods? By eliminating the free rider problem by collecting taxes. No one's a free rider because everyone pays taxes. We have a choice to place the burden more on poorer people or more on wealthier people. We don't choose one in particular. We kind of try to find the fine line and change it and adjust as that fine line shifts. We use our political powers to make the taxes as fair as we possibly can. Not perfect, but as fair as we can. And we use property taxes. In Paradise, we protect our elderly and disabled through tax freezes. I had received requests to explain tax policy and the homestead exemption process. That is my brief on that topic. Do I have any questions?
Wasn't very brief, but it was really in-depth.
All right.
Very good.
All right. Okay. May I continue?
Absolutely.
All right. Next item. This is a lot shorter. The city of Justin is leading an effort to establish regional animal control. Historically, I should say, the county has been responsible for animal control, but the county's big and the cities are small, and historically we haven't had excellent service when it comes to animal control. And neither have any of these other folks. I'm going to skip ahead here so you can see who's participating. So Justin, the city of Justin, their mayor is really passionate about getting this animal control problem solved, and he wants to create a regional body that will be responsible for caring for these animals. And so Justin, New Fairview, Paradise, Rome, Decatur, Northlake, Crum, and Ponder are all the municipalities who are currently involved in this regional animal control effort. Back in November of 24, Jared Greenwood came, Jared Greenwood came and gave a brief to the council saying, hey, here's what my mayor wants. Do you think it's a good idea? And the council at the time said, yeah, it sounds good. Come back when you know more. Back in May of last year, they came back to us again and said, hey, we're serious. We want to do this regional animal control group. Will y'all commit to helping fund a study? And at that time, the council approved the resolution to commit to assist with paying for the study. And so, in order to set up the regional animal control group, they have to do a regional study to figure out what's feasible. Justin has already done a request for proposals. They've chosen an engineer. I was part of the group that chose the architect. I was part of the group that chose the architect. They're a good, solid group. They have experience when it comes to animal control efforts. When you put all of these cities together, no one of us will have to pay more than $4,000 in order to fund this study. Once the study's done and we receive the results, then Justin will come to us again and ask, hey, do y'all want to chip in to actually stand up the agency? And so Later on this agenda, you will have a deliberation item to choose whether you want to empower me to pay up to $4,000 to help fund this study. Any question on this one?
The study will have a cost to,
Will not cost more than $4,000 to.
for this, I understand that, but I mean, are they gonna come back and say, all right, we can do this, it's gonna cost X?
Yes, sir.
In order to have this happen?
Exactly. Exactly. Good question. Anything else? All right, moving on. All right, I'm going to talk a little bit about our capital improvements, and then I'm going to invite Mike Anderson up, the city engineer, to talk through some other items. Real quick, if you look up on the screen, y'all already know, it may be news to the audience here, that we are in the process of designing a road correction on Schoolhouse Road as it comes up north towards the school. Okay, so right now, if you drive north on Schoolhouse Road, you hit a bend. It's a blind curve, and the grass grows up, and it blocks, and it's hard to mow, and people have a tendency to drive too fast and not see the turn, and they drive right into this field here, and that's happened several times. And so, in order to correct that, we are in the process of designing a new road alignment. We are designing it this year in fiscal year 26. In fiscal year 27, we will budget the money required to actually construct the correction. We are in a hurry to get this done because Paradise School District is trying to get their high school online before, in time for next year. And so they need to run utilities down this easement, this new easement, and that needs to happen before August. And so we are working hard to make sure that all the right-of-way is established and that the utilities are designed correctly so that all of that can be done properly and before the school starts. We're expecting, as I said, to get the work done between October of this year and September of 27. And that's when people can expect to actually see crews on the road doing the work. Any questions about this project?
When's the school opening?
August.
This year?
This year.
26, okay.
Yes, sir.
When are we gonna decide, because there was the two options, option A and option B, as far as the routing, when would that be decided on?
As far as I'm concerned, sir, option one is both cheaper and doesn't offer any less safety than option two.
Okay.
And so I think it's just option one.
Okay. That sounds good.
Okay. Good questions. Anything else? Okay. Next, I'm going to talk about Cedar Bend ground storage, and I'm gonna. This is another long one. I'm sorry. This is a long brief. I'm sorry. There's things that just have to be communicated about this project, sir. I'm going to address all of your questions in this presentation. So, y'all know that we have one water storage tank in Paradise. It's the 150,000 gallon elevated storage tank. It's the only it's the only water storage that we have in the entire city. It's a single point of failure for the entire system. You don't have to have a crystal ball to know that it's not good to have one point of failure for your water system. The Cedar Bend tank, I'm going to go back up to this map here. As you drive up Old Town Road here, and you go up past this kind of Cedar Bend area, just to the north here is Tulip, and to the north of Tulip is the water tower. So here is where we imagine that the ground storage tank would be. There is a pad here for just driving onto the property. There's a pump station here to pressurize the water and get it up where it needs to be inside the tank. And here's the ground storage tank right here. It's possible that sometime in the future we would be able to build more tanks. More water storage, generally speaking, is better. But right now we are only envisioning this one 250,000 gallon tank here. Yeah. So back in 2004, before the council ever hired me on, the council at that time had begun a process of applying for a grant with the USDA.
You said 2004, you meant 2024, right?
I did, I apologize. Back in 2024, thank you, sir. Back in 2024, before I was ever hired, the council began the process of applying for a grant with the USDA. Back in 2024, that looked promising. People were having a lot of success with these loans, and the hope was that the city would receive a grant from the USDA in order to fund this project. Well, it took 2 years to get the application together, and when we finally got it in, circumstances were different on Capitol Hill, and turns out there are other cities who outcompeted us in terms of neediness. Like, it's a velvet insult, you know. Y'all have a problem, but not as bad a problem as everyone else, right? There are other people who are worse off than you, so you don't get the grant money. We didn't get the grant money. That was a real punch in the gut. We really wanted it. But instead of being offered the grant money, what the USDA did is they offered us a loan at below market rates. The loan amount is $3.88 million. That is the all-in cost for the full project. The term is 40 years. The interest rate, they won't tell us exactly what the interest rate is going to be. What they tell us is it's going to be a few basis points below whatever the prevailing rate is at the time that the loan is accepted. They tell us for planning purposes, anticipate that it's about 3.375. On paper, this is a great deal. It's cheap debt. For a normal city, this is a slam dunk. You would never pass up an opportunity to get such cheap debt. This is better than a bond issuance. It's better than a certificate of obligation. This is as cheap as it gets. The problem is that we are an extremely small city, and we don't have a lot of room in our budget. And so just to pay the annual payment on the debt, it would cost $178,000 a year. The terms of the loan also require us to have an emergency fund that we'd have to contribute into. When that's taken into account, we would be paying $200,000 a year. And then we would actually have to run the tank. Now, tanks are passive structures. They don't really cost that much to operate, but it's still not nothing. Anticipated somewhere between $7,000 and $20,000 a year to just run the tank. And so we're looking at an annual cost of about maybe $210,000, $220,000 a year on top of what we're already doing. Why is that a problem? In most cities, that's one or two positions. You know, we just won't hire two people and we'll pay for the tank. In Paradise, our entire general fund budget is less than $900,000. Okay, this is a huge undertaking for the city of Paradise. I already explained that. Now, the only thing here to say is we spent money to apply for the grant. We really expected to get the grant. And so the city spent almost $120,000 to apply for the grant. Now we're on a tether. Now we're on a timeline. The loan offer is only good until the 5th of September 2026. That is our drop dead. If we don't do something with the loan before the 5th of September, it goes away. The money that we spent in applying for it is gone, wasted, and we still have to figure out our water problem. Now, there has been a lot of discussion about whether it's correct for the city to invest in a water tank. And the council does have an option to do nothing with the water tank. That is an option that is on the table. Just do your best with the elevated storage tank that you have, hope nothing goes wrong, and that's an option. But if you do, it just places a lot of pressure on this one tank that we have. So when we have water, there's this concept called peak water. And during the day, people are watering their lawns, especially in the summer, people are watering their lawns and running their dishwashers, and they're taking their showers, taking their baths, brushing their teeth, doing all the things that they do with water, and there's a time of day where the water is just flowing out of the water tower. And then the idea is, in a perfect world, you would keep the water tower would be big enough that it draws down slowly during the day, and then people go to sleep, and then the water slowly fills back up overnight, and you're good to go. But when you have a water tank that's too small, what happens is there's not enough water in the tank to last the whole day. And so rather than filling slowly overnight, you draw it down quickly during the day. And then it refills immediately during the day. And then you draw it down again during the day. And it's always cycling. They call it cycling the water tower. Now the water is elevated in the tower. And the more water you have up there, the more pressure gravity is pushing down on the pipes. More water, more pressure. Less water, less pressure. And so when there's less water in the tower, the pipes contract because there's less pressure. And then when the water comes back, the pipes expand because there's more pressure. In a normal system, there'd be enough water that the tower only cycles once a day. That process of expansion and shrinkage only happens once a day, and the infrastructure lasts a long time. But if you're cycling the tank over and over again during the day, it expands, contracts, expands, contracts, expands, contracts. And just like ice breaking up a sidewalk, you're breaking up your pipes. Okay. If you only have one single point of failure for water storage, eventually the item will fail and people will lose water. When the water pressure fails, dirt gets into the system. There are tiny little leaks in every water system. There are tiny little leaks that all throughout the pipes. But it's not a problem because the water is pressurized and the water is shooting out into the ground. But if the pressure gets too low, the water starts jetting out of the little cracks in the pipes where the pipe's going, and sediment starts to get in the pipes. And then your pipes are contaminated and you have a boil water notice. Okay. When that happens, everyone's hair is on fire. It's an emergency. It's a public health crisis. It's got to be solved immediately. And that's expensive. It would be an unanticipated cost. So what is Williford telling you? Williford is telling you it is the council's decision whether or not y'all want to pursue a ground storage tank. It is completely your decision. Can't make it for you. If nothing is done to increase our water storage, one day the elevated storage tank will fail, whether it's in 5 years or 15 or 50. And at that time, everyone is going to wonder, gosh, why didn't they solve the problem when they knew that it was coming? Okay? I don't need my the tarot cards to tell me that that's what's going to happen. If we don't take action on this ground storage tank now, we'll lose the $114,000 we've already spent, all the momentum that we have going into the project from these years of designing and planning and applying. And then in the future, it's going to cost more. It's going to cost more. This project is as cheap now as it will ever be again. It will never, ever again be as cheap as it is right now. But the loan is heavy. The loan is going to cost us, we got to at least pay that $202,000 a year, and we don't have it. We don't have it easily within the budget right now to do that. And so, if the council were to decide to pursue a ground storage tank, we'd have to find a solution on the money. Now, there are basically 4 ways that we could find money. I'm not saying that any of these are the right way. I'm just letting you know the levers that we have to pull. These are the buttons that you can press to find the money to pursue this project. That first item, it says long-term debt. Really what that means is we just take it out of the budget. Our general fund budget is about just shy of $900,000 a year. We'd be able to take some of it out of our water budget. If y'all turned to me and said, Williford, find $200,000 in our budget to defray the costs of this loan, and that was the council's decision, I would say, aye, sir, I am, and find it. We might be letting go of employees. We might be cutting services in other areas. But we would find it. If that was what the council wanted, that's what we would do. Water rates. No one wants to see the water rates go up. Nobody. I don't want to see it. You don't want to see it. Residents don't want to see it. Some adjustment may end up being both reasonable and necessary. If the council came to me and said, hey, figure out how water rates tie into this, I would say, yes, sir, yes, ma'am. Figure it out. Tax support. Our tax rates are low. It doesn't, when we go to other government bodies like the state or federal government, and we have our hat out and say, please give us money, what they do is they look at our tax rate and they say, well, your tax rate is so low, why don't your citizens pay some of this? Don't they have a responsibility in their own infrastructure? We have to say, yeah, shucks, well, it's really unpopular to raise taxes. Well, pound sand. You know, we have all these people paying much higher taxes, and they're the ones that need help. Not very easy to apply for grants when we aren't levying the amounts that other people are levying. And then external contributions. Hey, we can ask a developer to come in and build our infrastructure for us. It happens all the time. All the time. We have development agreements where people come in and, hey, I want to build so many lots. In order to make it worth my while, we need this infrastructure. You're going to have to let me have these conditions. We'll make a deal. You're going to let me build this many houses in this configuration, and I'll pay for your infrastructure for you. Happens all the time. It just means development. Some combination of those four things would have to be the way that we approached paying for this loan. Those are the levers that we have to pull. Okay? A resident from the city sent in a list of dedicated questions. I'm going to go ahead and answer all the questions here in front of everybody. Okay? What will be the upfront total cost of the project to design, build, test, certify, and integrate the facility into the city's water system? If we go with the full plan that we have, full bore planned right now that was in the USDA application, the all-in cost is anticipated to be $3.88 million. What will be the sources of funding for the project? How much from other sources? We don't know. It would be some combination of those four things that I mentioned earlier. Question number 3, how much will the city borrow to fund the project at what interest rate? That was all up on the screen before. It's $3.88 million at 40-year term. I think the interest rate was 3.875 approximately, depending on the prevailing interest rate at the time that the loan is accepted. Question 4, what are the anticipated annual incremental operating costs for the facility? Anticipated between $7,000 and $20,000 a year. What will be the anticipated increase to the city's 0.345 per $100? So we have a 34.5-cent tax rate, third lowest in Wise County, right? How much would it have to increase to defray this? You know, we don't know. We don't know how much. What would be the anticipated increase? Y'all haven't indicated to me that there would be any increase. Y'all would need to give me clear guidance on how y'all intended to defray these costs. How many bids will be required for each contract related to the project? So the way this works is the state has a procurement, there are procurement laws, and there are various methods that the city can pursue when it comes to procuring services for this sort of project. What it really boils down to is that the city would publish a public notice that, hey, we have a project, we're interested in engineers coming in and making their bids to participate. There is no minimum or maximum amount of bids for a project like this. I don't know how many bids we get. How many do you think, Mike? Usually?
For professional services, you'd probably get 3 to 6, and then for the actual construction contract, probably maybe up to 10 on a project this size.
But there is no statutorily mandated minimum or maximum. It's just whoever applies, it's a free market. Is it anticipated that the contracts related to the project will be fixed price? Yes, they will be fixed price. Who will manage the overall project and be held responsible for achieving its cost? Ultimately, the council is responsible. They delegate a lot of those responsibilities to me. I'm accountable to the council. I would hold the engineer responsible and the contract crews who were chosen through the procurement process. Okay. Next, there's one more slide with questions. Will the project cost keep the property tax rate below this limit? The state maximum tax rate that a municipality can apply is $2.50. That is a ludicrous tax rate. I have never heard of anyone getting anywhere close to that. No, we will never even approach that tax rate. Will the project's financing keep the city's debt service rate below the limit established by the Attorney General? Yes, all of our actions will be under review by the Attorney General and will have to be approved or else they won't happen. Voter approval. Has or will the project be put to a citywide vote? I don't know. Most of the ways that we have to pay for this sort of project do not require a vote. So if we cut the budget, it doesn't require a vote. If we adjust water rates, doesn't require a vote. If we bring in a developer, in most instances, it won't require a vote. The area where it would require a vote would be if the council tried to implement a tax rate that exceeds the voter approval tax rate. So if the council came to me and said, hey, we want to raise our taxes above this threshold, then there would be a vote, and that's when the voters would do that. How will the city maintain a balanced budget vis-a-vis the cost of the project? Well, we're statutorily required to keep a balanced budget. Our revenues have to exceed our expenditures, and so that's just the law, and that's what we do. Whatever we do, it will be a balanced budget. It's achievable. And so, I am standing here. I was requested to present this information. This is important information, and we are within we're approaching our 6-month mark where we need to make a decision. And so what I am asking now, this is not a discussion item on the agenda. The only thing I need from council now is there any guidance for me? And in future council meetings, is there something that I need to bring to you to help with this decision that y'all have to make?
I'd like to see a cost analysis that's gonna show 22% of our budget going to a water tower tank
Okay.
system. And then possibly, if you can go back and project increases in taxes from year to year over maybe the last 10 years, and then project them out and see, well, we're here now, we're gonna be here.
Okay.
Supposedly at some point in time to see if there's money available. And I realize at some point in time, you're gonna have to do something.
Yes, sir.
Either that or we're all gonna be drinking well water.
Yes, sir. When do you want that? You want that here later this month?
About 7 months.
Okay.
So we got till September.
So I'm going to see if I can
I
get
mean,
that.
if we borrow the money, we've got 7 months.
Well, every month we wait is a month we lose. And so I will try to get that to you at this month's meeting in February.
Fine.
If I can't, I'll get it in March. That's good guidance for me, sir. I appreciate that. Does anyone else on the council have guidance for me? Okay. All right. Getting into our zoning items. Now, this is not the discussion time. This is not the hearing. This is just a brief from me to the council to let them know what's going on with these rezoning requests. On North Mesquite, I have, this is the same land here. So if you look here, this is the aerial view of the lots that are proposed for rezone. It is technically 3 lots. They're the 2 main lots here and here. And then there's this kind of funky lot that is the alleyway between those 2 lots. The proposal from Mr. Joe Lamb is that those lots are rezoned from R1 to R2. All that means is that rather than single-family residences being built on that land, they would also be able to build multifamily buildings on the land. Last month, I showed y'all these illustrations of roughly what is expected the buildings would look like. Quadplexes, so 4 units to a building. A minimum of 3 houses in the lots, with a possibility of 4 if the engineering can be figured out. And so somewhere between 12 and 16 housing units on that property. With that, I'm going to sit down. I went right past
It's okay.
your
Covered most of it.
We got a big book.
I got some take-home reading.
I apologize.
It's okay.
So let's resolve this real quick, and then I'll let Mike get out of here. And then we'll go back to Windmill Ridge. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Joe Lamb to come up and make any statement that he wants to make. And then if the council has any questions for Joe, go ahead and ask them. Joe, I bet you up. I'm sorry, Mike.
So everything that we presented is still the same. We're looking to do multifamily. Obviously, if quadplex isn't, it allows us to be either doing townhomes, duplexes, or quadplexes. Either way, looking to do something multifamily, and be able to shape it to kind of match everything that we have around the surrounding area anyway. You guys have any questions?
You did mention duplex also possibly, but that
So-
would require a zoning change.
Is it not?
I didn't think it did.
I think multifamily would be
Is it 3 or more? I couldn't remember the ruling on it.
chance.
I'm sorry?
Does R1 allow for duplexes?
Single family.
Okay. All right. Make sure. But it was it's number of units per acre is how it was listed. So it was like 2 per acre if it's R1, but that cuts us to our normal half acre
So-
size.
Our zoning, the way the law is written, R1 can be built up to a quarter lot. Now, we have no quarter lots in Paradise because we have no sewer. And so technically, they can build up to quarter lots, but the practical limitation is half an acre.
And with, because I was the one that asked about had the questions, that structure that's there on the bottom right, you said that was gonna stay.
That is the plan, is to keep
Okay.
the permanent structure that we have now. We have room to do anything beside it. There is some drainage that we would need to engineer, and also septic. We've done some analysis on the septic side, doing some cost between whether we're doing one single system and tying all the units together in a sense, or doing single systems per unit like we have across the street. The cost is actually a little better doing single systems. So that's more than likely the route that we're going to go versus something like a RV park would have, where it would have a.
Because as it was worded the first time around, these multifamily units were gonna be placed on 2 acres. But because that structure is still gonna stay, that's not a total of 2 acres, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So it would be,
The only thing that would possibly be sacrificed is the shop.
Mhm.
The house would stay.
Okay, but it would cut it down by half an acre to stay, so that.
Yeah, I don't know roughly, because it's not surveyed out yet.
Yeah.
One of the things that we would do is get it surveyed to where each building would have its own parcel of land.
Okay,
So we don't have the same issue like we have across the street where this was all done on my parcel of land and we just built, and we didn't actually subdivide first and then build.
okay.
So
And the entrance or the front side of the building, would that be on Ash or?
it would be on Ash Street.
Okay,
Because we don't technically own
that easement in between.
the 30 feet that's from Mesquite into my property.
Okay,
That is still owned by Union Pacific.
now, I know you've been on Ash, that's an exceptionally narrow road.
It is.
Would that have to be widened?
So what I was looking at doing, and this would need to be a discussion, is getting the parking that's currently on or beside Ash into its own parking area on the new addition, and allowing for extra parking, and also limiting how many vehicles can be per household.
I guess I was also asking because I think once you get to multifamily buildings, you have different requirements for emergency services access.
Right,
That road, I don't think is wide enough for that.
right.
And if anything, even if it meets the technical limits, feasibility of sending a couple fire trucks down there
Mhm.
is not looking good for the situation.
And if we need to engineer something that allows for the road to be widened, or at least deed over, and I don't know how that part works, because I've never really had to
Widen it.
improve or anything on a current public road versus just building my own. So one of the things that I was up for was allowing however many feet you guys need to have for either drainage or road widening, giving that and pushing the structures in our property line back to allow for future growth, kind of like what TxDOT does for anything like that.
You said you had done some study for the soil as far as the percolation test on that
Yeah,
side or the other side?
On the other side, but we would be required to do perk tests on everything before.
And it looked like it was gonna be okay.
Yeah, so we have traditional systems on the other side of the road. We don't even have aerobic. The one house on the corner does have an existing aerobic system. I prefer not to go that route, prefer the underground position, because you have to be so many feet away from property lines for sprayers.
Okay.
So that chews up a lot of space. So underground is obviously the ideal. You don't get the smell, you don't get.
Okay. And then a question about, as far as on the property management side, the people that come to you, what steps do they have to go through? Credit check, obviously.
Yeah, so we all do a background check.
Criminal background check, okay.
And then that's pretty much, but it also gives us credit information as well. So,
Okay.
bad payments, not making payments, that kind of thing. And so that gives me the good peace of mind. And then, of course, they have deposit requirements. They have pet deposit requirements. And then it's a 20-page agreement that they sign that.
And for you, this is a long-term investment?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, so we've had those. My grandfather owned the other side of the property, and we've had it forever. And then I've just kind of made it useful instead of just being raw land. So that's kind of the idea, is to do the same thing here. It's something that I've been kind of working on for a few years now. Just trying to bring it forward and see if it's something that's feasible, or if, do something different. The other idea too is one of the things that, obviously it's a business opportunity for me, but the other idea is there's not a whole lot of rentals in the area that, to me, has a nicer, what I like to say is like catering to like a nice middle class, hardworking person that gives them the option to have something nice to live in, whether it be temporary or long term. We've had the school superintendent living there. We have a current teacher living there. We have people that work from Lockheed Martin living there. So it's one of those things that it gives people an option to be in paradise if they are in between building a house, or if they can't afford to build a house. It gives them that peace of mind, because there isn't anything else here. And then some of the other areas aren't as nice, the amenities aren't as nice. We build something would be essentially a custom home. And so that's kind of what we're striving for. And it's kind of the same thing with Windmill Ridge and all the other subdivisions that we've done. We try to keep it at a level that is something that I would want to be in, I would want to live in and take part in, and not just bring in something junky into the town, because that's the one thing I've always had a vision for the city of Paradise, is to be. So we don't want to grow to the size of South Lake, but we want to have the nicer amenities and the nicer people, and have that support. So that's kind of
I think
my take on
to
that.
point out is that you've grown up here, your family's been here
Yes.
for a long time.
Mhm.
He's married.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So I guess it's just to hopefully assuage any fears that people might have.
Right.
And I know one thing that people do fear is that quadplexes, duplexes, or even like a medium density would have an effect on property value.
Mhm.
In almost every case, it increases the local property value.
Yeah.
And there's a number of studies that have looked into that. And it's because it increases access to an area.
Okay.
If
Yeah.
you think about teachers or people in law enforcement, if they're starting out and they want to work in an area, they may not be able to live there because they can't afford a house.
Mhm.
Or maybe they can't afford a standalone residence that's for rent. They could afford that. And that means it gives them access to the area
Right.
and lets them live where they work.
Yeah, and we've even been super flexible with the people that live there. The school superintendent, they bought a house, or they built a house, I can't remember which, and they asked if they could terminate the lease. I said, just give me an extra 30 days rent, and you guys are welcome to move out. So we've been super flexible with anybody, just to work with their needs.
The other thing is that the density is ultimately gonna be controlled by the septic, I believe.
Mhm.
And that's not just your decision to make,
Right.
because you're gonna be working with our engineering company, and you're gonna work together on a solution, so it's not just what you wanna do.
Right.
So there's going to be some controls in this.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you look at the zoning for R2, I think it's 26 units, but that would never be buildable.
Sure. Yeah.
So just trying to.
Yeah, because like I said, we don't have sewer, so we could never support that on the sewer side. So that's why we're kind of flexible, like wherever the sewer guides us is where we'd be open, and this would be a longer term thing. We would build one now and then just slowly progress. It wouldn't be we would do it all at once, but that's.
And the last question was, I couldn't look into it too deep, but the requirements for fire protection.
So for smaller units, like 4-unit, they're different. I think everything has to be sprinkled on the open living areas.
Okay.
But it doesn't have to be fire suppressed in a manner of like attic space and stuff like that. He might know a little bit more about it than I do. But I think that's hitting pretty hard on where it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
We can also, if fire flow is a condition where we feel like it's not gonna be supported, we can come up with additional groundwater storage space. That is an option that we've seen in the past for fire flow. When there is an issue for, we can do like a 3,000 gallon ground storage tank.
I just didn't know what the trigger was from not requiring it to requiring it.
It is definitely anything over 2 units.
Okay.
3+ is fire flow, but then there's different stages of fire suppression,
Okay.
depending on the coverage and where it's gotta be.
I always count on him to ask all the questions.
Good. Are there any other questions for Joe?
Actually,
On the the boulevard or whatever that Ash.
Street, yep.
And the comment he made about fire vehicles going down that road,
Mhm.
what would prevent them from coming in on North Mesquite if they had the ability to attach to it?
So the road shape is very funky the way it was put in. So Ash Street isn't as bad as, it's kind of similar to the Blue Bonnet, but Ash actually bends over our property, doesn't even follow the property line. You can see where my corner of the property is actually in the road. So in all ideal world, it would need to be straightened and make a 90-degree turn into Blue Bonnet, and then Blue Bonnet continuing down to North Mesquite.
One day.
So we're on a side of the town that's a little underdeveloped, but that's part of the street changing, widening, I guess that's.
Because my question really is, there would be nothing to prevent them from going down North Mesquite if they had to gain access to put out a fire, would there?
No.
That was
Well, that's what I'm
question.
saying, if there was hydrant over there.
There is a hydrant right there at the corner of Ash at the top. So it'd be closest to that top
Ash and
house.
3259?
Okay.
What's
No,
that?
the other end of the.
3259 is down below.
What are you saying?
Right.
Right here, roughly, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so the fire hydrant is currently like right up here
Okay.
in this position. I don't know if there's anything on the other side of 3259. I have not been seen on that, and I don't know if there's anything more on Blue Bonnet. I know there's one fire hydrant at the very tail end of North Mesquite for drainage and flushing purposes, but I don't know if there's, outside of those two, if there's any more, if there's one on Blue Bonnet or not. There may be, but.
What we would do with Joe, and we started this a couple of years ago, just briefly, we would sit down with him and say, okay, let's sketch out what needs to be done to support this level of development. And you have controlling issues such as access. He's got on-site controls as it relates to septic. We're not typically having to deal with that because you normally go right into a sewer system. But in this case, he would need to figure out what his maximum yield or desired yield would be based on the available acreage, less the required septic. And then the way we would work through, or suggest we work through the access, the right-of-way, the road width, fire access, the turnaround capabilities, as well as the available fire protection, is we would put together, or they would put together a preliminary plat that shows here's the existing right-of-way width, here's the existing road width, it's 30-foot wide right away and the road is 16-foot wide. Well, it needs to be 24 feet wide and 50 feet right away to meet the city's ordinance. Now, how do we go about achieving that, right? We put together a preliminary engineering plan for that whole thing. We don't detail it all out. That allows him to make a business decision, and it gives the council the opportunity to review things at a level to where we feel comfortable and can and say, yes, this is what's necessary to support that development. He doesn't need to go spend $300,000 to engineer something that doesn't end up working, right? That doesn't make sense for anybody. So that's why we go through the preliminary plat process with the preliminary engineering and kind of work through all those issues, all relevant points. Everybody's got some really good questions. You know, we have to get into the fire code and see how that relates to the building choice, and he has a financial decision. He wants to go with the quadplex and 4 of them, and it requires this much fire protection, and the city system can only do this. Okay, he could supplement that through building his own tank, or maybe we could punch a new line, or if going under the railroad and a new loop line is $750,000, maybe he wants to kick in on the city's ground storage tank project. All sorts of ways we figure it out, but we have to, you know, step one for him is, will you consider this type of use for that property? And then it's our job to make sure that we work to solve all the technical problems, if you will. So what we would do is we'd come back after going back and forth with him and his engineer to get something where everybody feels comfortable.
So, pardon my ignorance on this case, as you engage with our engineer, he's obviously not free. Is the city reimbursed?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And so, the applicant for this sort of project has the option to schedule an engineer's meeting with us, and there's a fee associated. The applicant can choose to do that before or after applying for the rezone. In this case, the applicant chose to submit for the rezone first. I think probably so he knows what kind of project he's able to do. And so the item being discussed tonight is just the rezone, not any of the engineering.
No, I was just making sure that, like, so we know that as he engages with the engineer,
Yes, sir.
it's not just the city footing the bill the whole way.
There is a fee associated.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All the question you guys had?
I think so. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Mayor, I accidentally neglected to call Mike up. Is it okay with you if I go back and allow Mike to come up and talk through his piece?
Does he have a time limit?
5 minutes. 5
Yeah,
minutes.
5
That's
minutes.
it. Absolutely. You put a timer on it. Keep it there. That's Mayor, you heard it. Make it
I have
5
to
minutes. Mayor, council, appreciate it. Mike Anderson, one of your city engineers. I've got a packet on everyone's desk, and I'm just gonna walk through items 1 through 6. I am gonna be brief, and then if you can't sleep or you need firewood, you can read through and destroy the rest of that document. Item 1 is just an update. We are working on and are currently about 80% complete with an application to the Texas Water Development Board for a drinking water state revolving fund application. Chance mentioned the work, the effort that had been done on the USDA side. There's an opportunity to submit in March for additional potential grant funding, but most probably would just be another loan opportunity through the Texas Water Development Board for their drinking water side, which could potentially be a funding option for you to consider on the ground storage project that Chance mentioned. Just wanted to bring to your attention, based on the latest census numbers, the median household income in Paradise is $86,000. To qualify as a disadvantaged community, or to get free money, if you will, you need to be making 75% of the state average, which is $79,000. And so you're well above that threshold, which just means you don't get the 10 or 5 points, whatever the state places in front of your or behind your name as being disadvantaged as they go through score and rank the proposals. So in the back of this packet, there's 16 pages, talks about all the different scoring ranking criteria associated with the Texas Water Development Board Drinking Water Fund. We've got the same application at about 90% complete for the sewer side for a potential look at funding options associated with the wastewater treatment plant. So they're both due March 6th, so we're in line to get those completed. We are able to use the environmental report as well as the engineering feasibility study that was completed with the USDA as part of our grant application on the water side. So the effort was done, and we're able to just basically change the title and slip that in with this application. I wanted to point that out. Item 3 is House Bill 500, which set up $1 billion for the state to use as grant monies for water infrastructure improvements. There's 3 different categories: 0 to 10,000, 10,000, 150,000, 150,000 and above. As far as population goes for considering projects, you guys would fall into that lowest population category. Got the criteria for that grant look there in the middle of the page. They basically take what was the 2024 state average income. They divide that by what yours was last year, multiply that by 10, and that gives you your result, and you're ranked amongst other applicants in the state. Of the $1 billion allocated in funding, they have 71 million set aside for small systems such as yours. And the maximum loan amount for a small system such as yours is $5 million. Now that's a pure grant. They can't loan that money out. They just have to give it away. And this is just a new thing that just got passed with the latest legislative session, and those applications are due July. And so
You kind of went back and forth with the wording. You went from loan to grant. It's a grant, right?
yes, sir. I'm sorry. This one is under the TWBB House Bill 500. That is grant monies.
Number 3.
Yes, sir. And so those applications are due in July, and they will open up what the applications look like in March. We suspect it'll be real similar to the PIF, or the project information form paperwork that you have in your packet that we're completing for the loan application. Okay, so the twice a year annual TWDB applications for funding, those will be ongoing. This is just, hey, we've got $1 billion that we're pulling out of our piggy bank. Essentially, we're trying to give it away for projects. It's not exactly how it is, but essentially.
You'd be proud to pay the engineering department if you pull that one off.
Yeah.
Throw a party.
So that's kind of just a quick update on some potential funding opportunities, and there's some overlap. Grant between the possible grants, the loans. Chance has the deadline of September, I believe, for the USDA. So what I've got my guys doing is trying to put together a little schedule, trying to show all the overlap and all the different deadlines and whatnot, so we don't miss anything.
Quick question, like the deadline for the HB 500 one, how long after the deadline passes do we get results?
They just say fall. They don't have a hard date yet. Yes, sir.
Like it's the government or something.
Yeah. Right. So that's one of the things we're trying to do, because we know you have a hard deadline of September.
Yeah.
For yours.
In a case like this, let's say, I'm not saying we're doing it, but let's say we go ahead and do the USDA loan, and we would still then be eligible to get the grant.
Best I can tell, yes, sir.
Okay. I think we would still technically be able to get it. If we were then awarded it, could we just take that pot of cash and go, there you go, to the USDA?
It's a new program, sir, and it's difficult to say.
Okay.
We would certainly hope to.
Okay.
It would be great if we could just take that and apply it towards the principal.
There's no early payoff.
repayment
penalty.
penalties or something like that. We'll have to look into all that.
And the other, is it the same thing when, for a city as it is for consumer, if you pay off a credit card, does it affect our credit?
No, sir.
Okay,
No.
okay,
A whole different discussion.
okay.
Yes, sir.
And I'm just like putting a bunch of things in.
So there's quite a bit of nuance associated with a lot of this, and now that we've kind of got all of our options on the table, we need to go through and line all this out, and we can make a formal presentation over the next month or so as we get some more information. Good questions, though. Chance spoke about the new public meeting date. That is April 28th, and that would be for the wastewater treatment plant permit and our discharge route. So that's something that is coming up that we'll be ready for. We did take into account all of the feedback from the original property owners given to us back in February of last year, I believe. And then the last item that I have, just real quick, Chance showed you the realigned section of Schoolhouse. So what he's asked us to do is lay that out with the projected realignment of Old Town as it traverses east-west through here in accordance with the thoroughfare plan. And we're trying to make sure that the intersection is laid out at the right location so that when we go through and we start approaching property owners about right-of-way and working to get the right-of-way secured for the road and the utilities, that this is done with the bigger picture in mind. So got the files from them on Friday. We got it all laid in today, so we should have some feedback for them later this week. Working on that.
Does your map here show where they're bringing Old Town Road straight across?
Yes, sir, that's what we were attempting to do. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
T-Bone's
We're trying to get that
house.
all laid out. So we just got this laid in today.
My house is right
I'll
there.
get through this and get it as well.
Both of those cross both of his properties.
I was concerned because they had it all shoved up on what I thought was your property, and I found out to be on the other side too, so I figured we'll work with whatever works best for you.
What we'll do is we'll work with works best for what y'all got to do.
Right over here, yes, sir. So we just got this laid in, so we'll have some good feedback later this week, and we can sit down and talk about it.
The chances of it has to build on that. Old Town.
Yes, sir, I do. That was just kind of a quick update, so. Anything else for me?
Anything? Anything?
Less than 5 minutes, I think.
You can always come by and talk to me too.
Okay, we'll do. We'll get something put together. Yes, sir.
If you want to stay, you can.
All right, good. Yes, sir. Thank you. This is yours too.
Yes, sir, that's mine.
Then we'll be present for one more.
Yes, please. Because we're still gonna have the hearing for. All right, ma'am, thank you. Moving on. Okay, this is just the brief for the rezoning of Windmill Ridge. This is not the hearing. The hearing is coming after. For now, it's just a quick update, a quick reminder of how we got here. So, on the 28th of September 2020, Windmill Ridge was annexed into the city. The city issued an ordinance, Ordinance 20-144, which is included in this council packet. And when the development was annexed, a zoning was not done on it. It was not zoned. Now, we have a zoning ordinance. Within the zoning ordinance, section 6.1 says, any area or areas being annexed into the city of Paradise shall ordinarily be given permanent zoning concurrently with the annexation. And so, under normal circumstances, when the land was annexed, it would have been given zoning at the time of its annexation. Section 6.2 says, in instances in which the zoning of the annexed territories, in instances in which the zoning of an annexed territory concurrently with the annexation is impractical, the annexed territory shall be temporarily classified as a agricultural district until permanent zoning is established by the city council. And then section 8.2.1 is just a short illustration saying, hey, the standards for ag zoning are different than the standards for residential zoning. Single-family dwellings on buildings of lots of 2 acres or more are permitted in agriculture zoned areas, but most of the plats and Windmill Ridge are half acre. There are some that are bigger, but none of them fit the 2 acre requirement. Okay, so the area was annexed. It was not zoned. It defaulted at that time to a temporary designation of agricultural, which is the state that it's been in since that time. Okay, the city recognized that this had passed in middle of the year last year. So on the 28th of July last year, initially was the first time that the city had a hearing to discuss going ahead and rezoning Windmill Ridge. There was the hearing on the 20th of July, and then the item was on the agenda for a vote on the 25th of August. There was no vote. There was no motion made on the vote at that meeting. The hearing was continued until the 22nd of September. The item was on the agenda again for the 22nd of September. Again, there were a lot of questions from the community on how this happened and what should be done about it. And so at that time, the council chose not to continue it. It was put on pause. It was not continued until enough conversation could be had about this topic. So between September and now, there have been a lot of public information requests. There have been a lot of conversations. There have been conversations with attorneys. All sorts of things have happened since September. And we have proceeded to the point where today is technically the second attempt to hold a public hearing and consider voting to rezone Windmill Ridge from agricultural to residential. Why is incorrect zoning a problem? Well, it opens up a lot of administrative gaps for the city, and that matters. But the real reason is because the entire reason that zoning exists is to protect residents. And so the history of zoning is there was a neighborhood back in the early 20th century, and the slaughterhouse opened right next to the neighborhood, and there were screaming cattle and the blood stench going into the neighborhood, and the community decided that wasn't okay, so they created zoning, and that's the whole historical basis of zoning. The area was intended at the time of annexation to be residential. Because it's currently zoned agricultural, it opens up a lot of risk to the property owner. Because if someone decides to come in and sow a field and spray it with pesticides, there'd be very little that we could do to stop them from doing that in that neighborhood. Or
Don't know how for that.
we've already had people come in and want to build accessory structures, and we had to tell them, no, you can't build your accessory structures because you're technically in violation of your zoning. So you can't have your workshop, you can't have your garage. You have to wait. And then when you go to sell your home and you're going there with the title company and it comes up that there's a discrepancy and you're in violation of your zoning, or you go to pull out a HELOC or something, home equity line of credit, and your bank stumbles across the fact that you're in violation of your zoning, it's going to create financial problems for the property owner. And so when it comes to just the administrative procedures that govern quality of life, both from an administrative and from a residential point of view, it just makes sense to go ahead and correct the zoning. Now, one thing that I want to make clear to everybody, abundantly clear to everybody, is that the zoning question does not touch taxation at all. They are completely separate issues. So the rezoning is pending decision tonight. It's on the agenda. There will be a hearing. If there is a motion and a second, there will be a vote, and we will see how the vote falls. Depending on how that vote falls will impact the way that the city enforces zoning in Windmill Ridge. Whatever the decision is tonight, it will have no effect on the taxes. The taxes are not pending decision. The annexed land has been recorded by the Wise County Appraisal District. Property tax levy will begin with the current fiscal year. That is happening regardless of the outcome of the zoning question tonight. Okay. So that's the history of this event. That's how we came to this position. There will be a hearing and an opportunity for a vote later on tonight. Do I have any questions from the council? Okay. Going into citizen communications, ma'am. Citizen communications, this is for any item that y'all would like to discuss except for the rezoning items, because we have blocks especially designated for the rezone items. Okay? So as we go into citizen communications, if you have anything to say to the council except about zoning, the zoning cases being discussed tonight, perfectly good, perfectly fine, but if you have items about the North Mesquite or the Windmill Ridge zoning, save that, because it can come up during the hearing. You can say it then. Okay. Ma'am, with your permission, I'll turn it over to you.
At this time, the public is invited to address the city council and speak on any matter not specifically listed for public hearing elsewhere on this agenda. Please note that the city council members may not respond to, comment, or deliberate on topics if they are not included on this agenda. Today, for sure, each citizen will be allowed 3 minutes to address the city council. If you wish to speak during citizens' communication, please sign up with the city secretary before the meeting begins.
I didn't have any, but that doesn't mean they're not there.
And you don't have to require it.
Yeah, you have to require it.
You don't have to have them do
Not necessarily. She had to, that's a.
it. You go, Don.
Very brief,
You go, man.
very brief comment.
Good. And I did write.
Oh, she's got cards.
How
you doing?
Yeah.
Separate.
Don wants to go first.
Thank you. Don't mind. I had to wait for you.
Paul just.
Okay.
Ashley, Paul, stepped out to the restroom. Do you want to call a
Recess.
recess?
Oh, yes. Time 7:36.